Have you guys ever heard of the Milgram Experiment? It was done in black and white days, so I think it's like maybe the 50s or so. If you use the hashtag or do a search, Milgram Experiment, whatever you land on in your search, the actual experiment's in black and white. So whatever picture or video you see is in black and white. I would put this together and edit it into a video where I show excerpts of it. That takes a little more time. You guys could easily find it if you care. And then when I do videos and I edit them and then I upload them to TikTok or Instagram, they barely get any views, which, you know, I'm not doing any fake, phony, paying for views and buying stuff. I want my stuff to be organic. I don't follow people to get a bunch of followers or anything like that. I don't do those tricks. You either like this stuff or you don't. You either care about the truth or you don't. You either like the harsh reality of how you really need to fight this war or you don't. The Milgram Experiment points out why there is no father's rights movement, why the system stays the same. It proves that the vast majority of people are sheep and they won't even follow their own conscience. They'll do stuff out of peer pressure. The judges do stuff out of peer pressure. The lawyers do stuff out of peer pressure. The peer pressure is don't defy single mothers, always give custody to moms, and dads are bad parents. This is why I tell you guys, you need to go into the court system. You're dealing with the culture of the court. You need to go in there and unbrainwash them. Just like Martin Luther King went in there and Malcolm X and the Black Panthers went in there and unbrainwashed the culture of America to think that black people were inferior human beings. Or the way feminists went out there and said women shouldn't just be barefoot and pregnant. They were out there so much in the streets and doing the things that they're doing, they overturned the culture. But men are such punk little sissy PUSSYs. We will never get together and have any kind of civil rights movement or suffrage movement or anything like that. So you have to do it on your case and unbrainwash this judge. I was talking to somebody just yesterday in a consult. He's like, well, I said that, and I did that, and I tried that. I said, did you say exactly what I told you to say? Did you say exactly paint the picture that I painted? No. Then you didn't say what I said. And I won in court, and if you lost, you should try something different. So many of you guys got your panties in a bunch, and your ego, you're worshiping your own ego and saying, well, I already tried, or you're so scared and lazy, you don't want to try anything again. We're talking about your life with your kids. You should be willing to try 1,000 times over. I know I was willing to do it. This is why I could talk so much smack to my gender. Everything that I did it. I was totally in the dark. I didn't have a James Christensen there guiding me and leading me and giving me pamphlets of motions that worked for $45 when an attorney wants $2,500 to write up a motion. I didn't have the information and guidance you guys are getting from me for free, and definitely didn't have the information and stuff that you get in a one-on-one consult with me. And I came out there, out of the gate swinging and kicking ass. What's your excuse? I was a warehouse worker who flunked out of college. I was a warehouse worker who flunked out of college, had no legal experience, had nobody helping me, except I had two mentors, two father's rights guys that gave me about this much information. It was good enough to get me going. And when I got going and I lost the first few times in court, I told myself I'm fighting until my daughter's 18. I don't care. I'm going to figure out a way to go to court and fight so I can face her and say I did everything I could. And it turned out that attitude and that willingness is what got me through and that's how I ended up getting full custody of my daughter when she was 7 months old. So, most guys don't have that attitude. When I looked up and looked around and saw the vast majority of men are a bunch of PUSSYs, I have to spell that out on TikTok. I've been banned so many times telling guys what the deal really is. But I've been through it all. I've been through everything you guys have been through. and I overcame it. So you should want to listen to me. It's amazing, all these different fathers' rights groups out there, and there are other groups out there. There's other people. There's famous people who told me they wanted to bring me on their podcast, and then I guess they saw enough of me. I'm too toxic, because I call it like it is, or politically incorrect. And some of those famous people, one guy is an ex-NBA star, and he deals with fathers' rights issues because he got screwed in his case. He's talking about there needs to be reform and all this other stuff. And he said, man, I want to get you on my podcast. And I never heard. I said, cool. And I never push and hunt people down. I followed up with him one time and I said, were you still interested? You know, and he said, yeah, I got to get the podcast going. Once he got it going, I never heard from him. People see like a glimpse of me and they momentarily like, oh, wow, this guy got full custody. And then they listen to me like, oh, my God, he's talking about working hard to fight for your kid. I can't do that. He's talking about getting off your ass and doing something about it. He's talking about fighting the system. I can't talk to a judge like that. I'm scared. And it's all because of this phenomenon that the Milgram experiment showed. So here's what happened. They had this volunteer thing. People were in one room. There was a dividing wall. They had these people at a switchboard. And they asked people, a person over here would ask a person in this room a question. If they answered wrong, the person over here would hit a switch and it'd give them a little shock. And if they answered wrong, they had to turn the dial up a little bit. And so they had a list of questions and they would say, hey, what's the answer to this? How far is Earth from the sun or something? And somebody says 50 million miles. Wrong. And you hear, ow. So the guy over here, here's the guy over here, say, ow. Now, actually, he's a fake actor. They just want to test people's peer pressure. And then there's a doctor in a lab coat standing behind them with a clipboard saying, please continue. They're like, hey, he's in pain. Like the experiment must go on. Please continue. And they kept doing it and dialing up until you had people over here going, ow, stop, please stop, it hurts, stop. And then at some point, if they kept getting wrong answers, they turned up the dial, they wouldn't hear anything from this side. And so they're wondering whether they're dead or passed out. And people still kept going. So the measurement that they measured, that at least half the people went to the point where it was like a bad shock. I don't know what level it was, but like at least half the people went to a point where people were yelling in pain. And you would think, oh, I would never do that. And the only thing that was making them do that was a guy in a doctor in a lab coat saying, the experiment must go on. You must continue. Please continue. Because they signed up for it. This guy is saying, go shock somebody and hurt somebody. You have to do it. And they kept doing it. And they got some psychologists together to say, what percentage of people would go all the way to do this under peer pressure from a doctor to do it to the point of death? They said like 0.08% of people. That was their average guess. It was like 20% of people went all the way where they're willing to kill somebody because they have to answer questions because they volunteered for an experiment and this guy in a lab coat said you better do it. Go watch it. The Milgram Experiment. I tell dads to light fire under their attorneys or to go into court and stand up. Act like you have some balls. I did it. I show you proof that I won. There's many testimonials under the hashtag HIGC testimony on my YouTube channel. The average person will watch this and you won't even get off of your ass with a mouse and click this until you get to the YouTube channel and type in something. 5 seconds, 10 seconds. You won't even do that to verify that this stuff works because it's too scary for you and your inner biatch won't let you grow some balls. This is a problem. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it and water it down because it's pathetic that dads think that they should be entitled to have their kids in an unjust, corrupt world and they can whine and cry and piss and moan their way into justice. Real men are warriors who fight against. Like, we love movies like 300. The underdog, Greece, was fighting the Persians. And we were rooting for them to win against the big evil monster. So I'm rooting for you guys to win against the big evil monster of these attorneys and guardian litigants and judges. I did it. Why can't you? Well, because of this. I did it that. I was just, well, I don't know the law. Well, learn the law, bitch. I don't know how to drive, so I'm not going to take driver's ed. What kind of asinine excuse is that? That's what I hear all the time. If you're not ready and willing to fight, then you're just a Milgram Experiment sheep, and your kids don't deserve you. Grow some balls and learn how to fight. Get an appointment if you